Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa. Tonight, a devastated family buries a 13-year-old shot dead by police in Kenya as they enforced a coronavirus lockdown. Yasin Hussein Moyo's loved ones say that authorities have been heavy-handed and violent. Also, as South Africa prepares to ramp up screening efforts, township communities struggle to stick to the rules of confinement. Many are already living in cramped conditions, and staying indoors for 21 days is proving to be difficult. And it's now the turn of Africa's largest city to deal with the rigours of lockdown. 2 weeks of closures began in Lagos this week. Most of the country's 135 confirmed cases have been in the Nigerian megacity. But first, the family of a 13-year-old is struggling to come to terms with his death after he was killed by police enforcing the new coronavirus curfew. On Monday evening, Yasin Hussein Moyo's mother told him and his brothers and sisters to go upstairs because she'd heard gunshots and thought that they would be safer there. The children were reportedly on their balcony when they heard more shots and saw the target light from a gun. 13-year-old Yasin froze and was fatally shot. Now, he was buried on Tuesday, and his devastated family is calling for justice. They say that police have been chaotic and abusive at a time of crisis.
This operation is being carried out in the wrong way. The police arrive yelling in the estates, and when people see this, they run scared. To make matters worse, they beat and rob people. They also throw tear gas in our homes. And yet people have young children. We're fighting corona during the day, and we have to deal with bullets during the night.
Well, Kenya's dusk to dawn curfew began last Friday, and police have already been accused several times of using excessive violence. The measures to curb the spread of coronavirus are ramping up tensions in the country. Many poorer communities not only feel mistreated and at risk, but also fear losing their livelihoods in the coronavirus fight back. In the city of Kisumu, traders have been struggling ever since the main market was closed earlier this month. New stores have sprung up on roadsides, but they risk being shut down soon, and market people say that they're not getting enough help.
Let them close the markets only after they give out food, because hunger and coronavirus are two different things. Hunger kills in 7 days, while coronavirus kills in 14 days. So which one is more important? Preventing hunger or coronavirus? If you don't prevent hunger, you're just killing your people.
Here in Kisumu, there is no external support from the government, and when we go to the market to try and get something on sale, we get chased with tear gas by the police. So what do? I'm just asking. We know that there is coronavirus, but we are Kenyans. We eat from hand to mouth. But in the Western countries, everyone is getting food distributed and they can stay indoors.
Well, South Africa has the largest number of coronavirus cases on the continent. On Tuesday, the figures stood at around 1,343 confirmed incidents of infection and 5 deaths. Now, the government's sending out door-to-door testing teams as it ramps up screening. A 21-day lockdown started in the country last Friday, but potential internal transmissions in townships is a worry, as many people are already living in cramped conditions and are finding it tough to stick to the rules of long-term confinement. Sam Bradpeace reports.
South Africa's city centres are plastered with warnings and their streets deserted. In contrast, confinement is less respected in the townships, where law enforcement officers are now everywhere.
They must stay inside.
They must stay inside to prevent corona from spreading. Hey.
Go inside the house. Oh, it's a struggle.
To us, it's very difficult because our toilet is at the back there. So how are we going to the toilet?
As soon as the police leave, life goes back to normal. Lucas lives in a 3-room home with his family of 6, and it's difficult for him to stay inside all day because, like for many others, 21 days in confinement is 21 days without income, and poverty trumps any fear of the virus.
People spend like 6 hours without water at the tap that shuts off because services aren't up to par. But now, during this, if that tap runs dry, when services are already dying out and everything, it's going to cause people to go berserk.
3,000 soldiers have been mobilised to help the police. Forcing people to stay inside is now the government's first priority. The Premier of the Western Cape is worried.
We don't want confrontation, and especially when people with power, meaning military, start abusing power. We can't have that either. We come from a history which had that kind of face-off between military, specifically military and lockdown. So this must be something that also, says to people in our country, it's uncomfortable. It really is uncomfortable.
Nonetheless, there is pressure to act quickly, with South Africa recording more cases of infection than anywhere else on the continent.
Well, it's now the turn of Africa's largest city to deal with the rigours of lockdown. 2 weeks of closures began in Lagos this week. Most of the country's 135 confirmed cases have been in the Nigerian megacity. Its streets and those of the capital, Abuja, have run quiet since Monday night. Nicolas Chaumin has more.
Never has the megacity of Lagos been so quiet. It is famous for its vibrant atmosphere and its traffic jams. But on the first day of the 2-week lockdown, it was unrecognisable. More than 100 cases of coronavirus have been reported in Nigeria, most of them in Lagos. In some districts, environmental officers disinfected the streets.
The purpose is to exterminate COVID-19 virus. That is what we are doing. We are moving from one street to the other, motor park, schools, market. We are going everywhere today, and the exercise continues.
Some Nigerians have criticised the government's lockdown. They stress that many here live hand to mouth and cannot buy food to last 2 weeks. But others supported President Muhammadu Buhari's decision.
Anybody that comes into the shop or the pharmacy to buy something, you don't know if that person is affected. Nobody knows because it's not written on the face. So that is why I'm happy it's locked. I'm happy people obey the law.
The federal government in Abuja said it had begun cash transfers to Nigeria's poorest households to sustain them through the crisis. One unexpected consequence of the lockdown is that young people decided to play football on what is usually a very busy motorway.
Well, in a first for the continent, Ethiopia is postponing its election because of COVID-19. The vote had been set for August, but authorities say that the pandemic has made it logistically impossible for the country to be ready in time for the exercise. The government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and opposition figures have both backed the election board's decision to delay the vote. And here in Paris, the former president of Congo, Brazzaville, passed away from complications related to coronavirus. 81-year-old Jacques Joachim Yombi Opango led the Republic of Congo from 1977 until 1979, when he was toppled by current leader Denis Sassou Nguesso. And Madagascar's 2 main towns are entering their second week of lockdown. The government's launched a €2.5 million emergency plan to help those forced to stop working during the confinement. Hundreds of people have been rushing to the delivery points to get free food, and authorities have been struggling to handle the influx. Gael Borgia tells us more.
About 250,000 households will receive food during the confinement period. The president promised to help street sellers, bus and taxi drivers, prostitutes, all the people who no longer have an income because of the measures to stop the virus. One of the most difficult challenges for the authorities is to confine poor people who have no other choice but to continue working in the streets. So many people are in need of help that the authorities are staggering deliveries and sending text messages to notify different groups of people when it's their turn to head to drop-off points. On Tuesday, it was bus and taxi drivers. They received 25 kilos of rice each and a bag of basic products like sunflower oil, salt, sugar, soap and candles. But it takes hours to hand them out, so some lose patience, others turn up, even if it's not their turn. So the challenge for the authorities is to control the crowd as well as prevent the virus from spreading.
Everyone's under pressure. People are in the sun. They're in a hurry to get home. They want food. It's not easy, even for the staff and the police who are in charge of maintaining order. We'll try to handle it in some way or another, so we don't end up with a riot.
But there have also been examples of solidarity from the private sector and citizens. Some textile companies have reconfigured their factories and make masks for free. And some call centers are helping the government in providing free public health helplines.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again. Take care.